All right, guys, we're going to break down the fights for UFC Fight Night. Pyfer versus Hermansson. It looks like we got through weigh-ins unscathed. Fights are going to be a little bit later today. Nothing real crazy I saw at the face-offs or the weigh-ins. No fights canceled today. The Cuamba and Oki fight is the only one that's fairly new. So let's go break these down. We do have a 4% play in the UFC that is up. Pretty rare to have a 4% play in UFC for us. 5-2 over the last 365 days. We've attached a couple of other plays to that. So let's bring in the profits. We're having an awesome Saturday so far. Golf plays looking great. Soccer's looking great. We got a good lacrosse play going as well. So cap it off with a 4% play. That is up at wagertalk.com. All right, let's start going through these fights here. Start with Daniel Marcos and Aoriqileng. So, Daniel Marcos is the big favorite. Should be. He's 15-0. My problem with him is he's so low volume. It just like he's effective, but he is low volume. He gets the split decision against Davy Grant, and he did not land that many shots, but did enough damage. To get it done. So if we're just looking at this fight, I'm not a big Aoriqileng fan. He's coming off of the win against Johnny Munoz. Lost to Zahabi, beats Jay Perrin and Cameron Else. So whatever. Not great wins. So in his last fight against Munoz, I know he got the win. He was pretty slow, fairly low volume. Not that exciting of a fight. I guess I'm going to pick Daniel Marcos, but I'll just caution everybody about Daniel Marcos. This guy's 15-0. He's not going to end his career undefeated. There's a loss coming. I don't know if it's today, but with a guy that just came off a very, very close win and a guy that's as low volume as Daniel Marcos is, I'm just having trouble betting on him because what is it going to get to 21-0? I don't know. A lot of averages say a loss is coming. I will say I like overs in this one. If you're looking for a parlay piece, maybe this one to start round 2 or over 1.5. Just because these guys are so low volume that I don't think either one of them is going to get an early finish. So that's kind of how I would look to play this one. Both of them are pretty tough guys. So that good enough, the grappling, wrestling, takedown defense on both sides. I don't see a huge advantage there. So I think that's how I would look at Daniel Marcos and Aoriqileng as an over. I'm not going to make an actual bet with my own money on Daniel Marcos, but he should win. I don't know. He's flirting with a loss, and it's coming soon. So, Hyder, Amil, and Fernie Garcia. I'll cut to the chase here. I like overs in this one as well. Fernie Garcia, this it's a big fight for him. This guy's lost 3 in a row. Losing to Journey Newsome and getting taken down, not great. Brady Heistan, it's okay. That's lost. Marinya Nakamura, I thought there were times against Nakamura where he just looked like he did not have any confidence whatsoever. So he's got 3 losses in a row. He's fighting Hyder Mills coming off of a Contender Series. The fight on Contender Series was not real good. He won, but went to decision. There was a lot of wrestling, a lot of, kind of grappling. So I think if you're looking for a sneaky parlay to put with Daniel Marcos over, I think it's Hyder Amil, Fernie Garcia over. I don't see either one of these guys finishing the other. Hyder Amil couldn't get the guy on Contender Series out of there. Fernie Garcia certainly doesn't look like he's finishing anybody these days. Both of them have the ability to work on the ground. I just don't see a whole lot of power in their striking. So I think they're both going to be able to defend whatever happens on the ground. And I just don't see the power from either one of them. They're both pretty active. Cardio's pretty good. So it wouldn't surprise me if this went the distance. But, I like 2 overs there to start the card, Marcos and Aoriqileng. If I have to pick one here, I actually I'm not going to bet it with my own money. But for the purpose of the video, I kind of like Fernie Garcia in this one. Not real impressed with Hyder Amil. And these guys coming off a Contender Series just have not looked great. There's just something about the step up from Contender Series to making your UFC debut. So, maybe Fernie Garcia gets the win. It breaks the losing streak. So, for the purpose of the video, Fernie Garcia. But if I'm betting anything, it's this one to go over. Zach Pauga and Bogdon Guskov. I correctly called what was going to happen in Guskov's last fight against Ozdemir. I made a good chunk of money. That was, looking back, a mortgage. That was not. That was like not pay your mortgage for the month. That was pay off your entire mortgage when you got Ozdemir against Guskov, coming off of just these shady fights overseas against these horrific competitors, and he looked lost. He did not look UFC caliber. So, and you got Zach Pauga, who also has not looked UFC caliber. I will say, the knockout against Muhammad Usman didn't look good, but it was, I mean, it was just a great shot from Usman. And then I'm kind of high on Bukauskas. I picked him to win that fight against Zach Pauga. I thought Bukauskas was going to do some things that really frustrated Zach Pauga, and he did. He did. So, what do I like in this fight? As unimpressed as I have been with Zach Pauga, I like it. I don't think Guskov is UFC caliber. He did not look even remotely close. And I know it was against Ozdemir, who's a really good one. But there's no way I can pick Guskov. Because it's Guskov, I wanted to take an under, but this is Zach Pauga with the distance against Jordan Wright, which is almost impossible. So I'll take Pauga to win. I will probably not get to the window on betting the side in this one. So Jeremiah Wells and Max Griffin. I'll be 100% honest. I don't have that great of a read on this fight. I mean, Griffin, he's coming off the loss to Michael Morales, but I thought he held his own. I mean, this is Michael Morales. Guy is probably going to fight for a title at some point in his career if he keeps on the trajectory. So loses to Neil Magny split, beats to Amin split decision. So, and then Jeremiah Wells coming off the just the insane loss where he just dominated Carlston Harris, gets caught in a random choke. I will pick Jeremiah Wells to win. I think he's got more offensive weapons. But this one, I think, is going to be really, really close. I mean, Max Griffin is going the distance. He's in split decisions. These fights are really, really close. So I'm just not going to get to the window on anything. Again, I think you could see an over here. Jeremiah Wells couldn't get Carlston Harris out of there. Max Griffin is not a guy that's been getting people out of fights late. So it's probably an over on this one as well. As you can tell, I like a lot of overs in this one. For purpose of the video, I guess I'll sprinkle Jeremiah Wells, but I think this is a pretty close fight. Devin Clark, Prachnio. I'm just not a Prachnio guy. I'm just not. That being said, I don't love Devin Clark. I mean, let's be honest. This win against William Knight has an asterisk by it. I mean, that guy, that was the fight where William Knight just froze and didn't fight. So he gets gifted a win there. Victor Petrosyan gets him on the ground, really holds him there for most of it. Finally gets the submission laid, and he loses to Felipe Lins. So Prachnio, I got questions on his cardio. Not really sure what he does great. I don't think he does anything particularly great. I will say he was much bigger at weigh-ins than Devin Clark, and if it gets into a wrestling clinch game, that's going to help Prachnio a lot. Is it going to help his cardio? Absolutely not. Devin Clark is coming off where he got his standing submission against Kennedy as a Chukwu, but I mean he was landing shots. He was very active. He didn't look like he was tired. But the finish was in round 2, so he could absolutely get tired. So, he's kind of been rotating losses. And, I mean, 2-4 in your last 6 fights isn't good. Losing to Kudalaba, losing to Anthony Smith, losing to Mirzakhanov. So, I myself am not a Prachnio guy, but I have red flags about Devin Clark. I don't think he's a finisher. And can he do what, for example, Vitor Petrosyan did, which is, get Prachnio down, hold him down, tire him out, and then get the finish? No, I don't think Clark can do this. I think this fight mostly takes place on the feet. I think it's going to come down to who's got the cardio. Somebody's going to fall off a cliff as the fight goes on. Whoever's got the better cardio, my guess is going to take round 3 and win a fairly close decision. I'll lean Devin Clark, but not a very, very strong pick. I'm just not a Prachnio fan. Nice cash betting against him last time. So Devin Clark, but I think this one goes the distance. Loma, Lookboonmee, and Bruna, Brasil. Loma's a big favorite. I think Bruna Brazil is actually worth a little bit of a sprinkle. Obviously, her biggest concern is trying to stay out of the wrestling. She wins a fight against Shauna Bannon that was terrible. Um, Lost to Denise Gomes, but give her credit. Nice head kick to Marnik Man. Marnik Man's awful. But she did get the win against Shauna Bannon. The fight wasn't great. That fight was better than I thought. Now, obviously, I did not have high expectations for that, but give her credit. She won a fight on the feet. Lookboonmee is probably going to look to wrestle and look to try and really control the positioning of this fight. Coming off a win against Elise Reed, she did beat Denise Gomes, so the loss against Lupi, I don't think is that bad of a loss. Lupi has just continued to get better and better, and now Lupi is all of a sudden a striker and a wrestler grappler. So the pick is going to be Lookboonmee. Even though there's a big size and height discrepancy, Lookboonmee is the favorite. I think that's for a reason because I think she's going to control it on the ground, and also I think she's just a little bit more aggressive on the feet. So it's women's MMA, so anybody can win. I guess maybe the Bruna Brazil might be worth a sprinkle, but in the end, am I going to bet money on Bruna Brazil? No, I'm not. The pick is going to be Lookboonmee. Timothy Cuamba coming in short notice against Bolaji Oki. Cashed on Cuamba on Contender Series, and I remember I was kind of on an island on that one. But this guy's 8-1, but he fought a lot of amateur fights. He's got a kickboxing style and tough guy, man. Tough. He wasn't. This fight against Mateo Voga wasn't super entertaining, but I'm pretty sure he was the underdog in that one. Let me check and see if they have the odds in that. Yeah, I remember this. Cuamba was the underdog because I remember cashing an underdog ticket. So he's just coming off of a knockout, but it was that tough enough? I don't really know how I feel about that. Meanwhile, Oki is the big favorite coming off of Contender Series. He was getting handed a real gift with the 37-year-old. I can't even remember the guy's name. My mind is frozen this morning. Tamir Hadzovic. He was going to run through Hadzovic. This is a guy who's going to fight back. I wasn't sure Hadzovic was going to fight back. So Oki's got really good striking. Just looked like a monster against Dylan Salvador. The pick is probably going to be Oki, but this is much closer. Cuamba is going to be able to return fire on the feet. So this went from being Oki all day against Hadzovic to probably safe to stay away because we have no idea what we're getting from Cuamba. He's obviously in fight shape as he's just coming off of a win. And, who knows what Oki was training for. I think Oki's got some pretty bright days ahead of him just with how good that he's looked over his last couple fights. Incredible striker. So I think this will be a fun one. I hope this goes the distance. I would like to see 3 rounds from both of these guys and see what they got. I'd love to see how their cardio holds up in the 3rd round. Probably a pass for me just because of the fighter change. I don't like this matchup. I don't like how I don't like Oki getting a last-second opponent that's younger, more athletic, and is going to have a few more edges. So it's going to be a really entertaining fight, and we're going to learn a lot about these two, and we're going to see if they got a real future in UFC. Trevin Giles and Carlos Prates. This one terrifies me. I love Prates. He was my favorite coming off of Contender Series. We all loved him. Looked great. Well-rounded. He can do it pretty much anywhere, but I just worry about laying the price on these Contender Series guys making their UFC debut. Here's the other thing about Prates. He's 17-6. He is 30. I do worry about a guy who didn't make it to the UFC until his 30s. Normally, that is a red flag. But this guy's been training at the Fighting Nerds, I believe, and that gym just knows how to set up people for it. They just know how to game plan for fighters and get them in situations to win. That cannot be it can't be overlooked. So the thing is, Trevin Giles, man, 16-5. He's been around forever. He's a UFC vet. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, he got starched by Gabriel Boluboy. I thought he kind of lost against Preston Parsons, but split decision, whatever, super close. Wins against Koski, who's awful. And then interesting losses here. Michael Morales, phenom, and champion, Dricus Duplessis. So, I mean, the guys fought Duplessis, Morales, and Boluboy. So, I don't know. No shame in those. Is Prates better than Preston Parsons and Koski? Well, I know he's better than Koski. He's probably better than Parsons, but by how much? I don't know. I'm just warning everybody, be careful about penciling in Prates as this easy win. I think this fight is going to be pretty close, and I think Giles might be worth a little bit of a sprinkle on the underdog. Just it's nothing against Prates. It's just these Contender Series guys who just have not looked good. So I respect Prates a lot. I think what puts me over the edge on me not being able to bet on Trevin Giles, I'm probably leaning towards Prates, is just that he's fighting out of that gym, or that he's been working with the Fighting Nerds guys. They just do such a good job with the game plans. Anytime one of those guys has a fight, you can just tell he's been well coached. You can tell they know what they're doing in terms of preparing for their opponent's style. So I think that's really, really important. So for purposes of this video, I'm going to pick Carlos Prates. But, man, don't just automatically assume Prates is going to roll through Trevin Giles. I think Giles, just the UFC experience, is going to make him a live dog for sure. Most of these fights, live lines will be really good. But this one, if you see Prates is not like head and shoulders above Giles from the very beginning, Giles might be worth a live line the longer this fight goes on. So, Rodolfo Viera and Armen Petrosyan. I love Petrosyan in this matchup. I'm not high on Rodolfo Viera. He's 9-2. He's coming off a win against Cody Brundage. He got flatlined. Cody Brundage knocked him damn near out, and because Brundage has the fighting IQ of a turtle, he couldn't friggin' finish. He couldn't finish Viera. Viera gets his wits about him and then somehow turns around and gets a finish when Brundage gasses himself. So I'm not real impressed with that. I go back to this Chris Curtis fight where he just could not get Chris Curtis on the ground. 20 takedown attempts and Curtis stuffed all of them. And so then what happens? It ends up becoming a striking match. And that is just not what he does. So, I'm not a big Rodolfo Viera fan. He's been open that doesn't really like hitting people, which is, it's tough if you're a UFC fighter. So, on the feet, it's Armen Petrosyan all day long. I love the stand-up game of Petrosyan. I think he's underrated. He put on a clinic against Duncan in the last fight. So, I like Petrosyan to win this one. If he stuffs a couple takedowns, I think Viera gets tired, and then he's not going to have the takedowns there. The other thing, Viera can get guys down, but sometimes these guys can get back up off him, so I'm not sure that he's that great. So I like Petrosyan's going to be bigger than him when this fight starts, so I like Petrosyan. Michael Johnson and Darrius Flowers. I don't think Darrius Flowers is UFC caliber. He got in the UFC because he slammed a guy on Contender Series, and the guy broke his collarbone or his shoulder or something. So, I mean, congratulations to Flowers. That's a good way to get a win, but a little bit fluky. And then got smoked in his first UFC fight where I just thought he did not look professional, didn't look UFC caliber at all. Michael Johnson, 21-19. I know he's getting up there in age, but again, he's a UFC veteran. Diego Ferreira caught him. But before that, he beat Diakese. Loses a real close one to Jamie Malarkey. I just think I'm very, very low on Darrius Flowers, so there's no way I'm picking him. Michael Johnson's going to be the pick because if it gets out of the first round, Johnson's going to have the better cardio. So not really sure Flowers has the KO power to get Michael Johnson out of there. So pick is Michael Johnson. Brad Tavares and Gregory Rodriguez. Rodriguez, that lost to Bruno Ferreira 2 fights ago, just got that really crazy counter shot. And then they give him Dennis Tululin, which he does what he's supposed to, which is roll through Dennis Tululin. So you just kind of have to wonder is Gregory Rodriguez, is that just a fluke KO against Ferreira, or is his chin really questionable? So, because we didn't see it tested against Tululin. Now, is Brad Tavares the guy to test it? Probably not. He barely beat Chris Weidman, who I mean, Chris Weidman was coming off the broken leg. He was hobbling around. He could barely walk. So, and before that, loses to Duplessis and Bruno Silva. Not terrible losses, but he's just like Omari and Carlos Jr. Those guys aren't even in UFC anymore. They're over in PFL, and they're not exactly flourishing in PFL. So I'm gonna pick Gregory Rodriguez because Tavares I just don't think has the tools. Like he doesn't have a KO in a while. When was his last KO? 2019, I think. In 2018 against Jotko. So does he have the power now to test the chin of Rodriguez? Probably not. He's low volume. I don't think he's going to have the tools to make it a fast match to get Rodriguez tired. So I think Rodriguez probably has the advantage everywhere with striking, even in clinch and wrestling. So takedowns. So yeah, the pick is going to be Rodriguez in there. I'm not real high on Tavares. Poteria and Robert, I believe it's Brzezczyk. Just take the under. You can take under 1.5. Take it to not go the distance. It's a parlay piece. Poteria's gotten absolutely smoked in his last two fights against Olberg and Bellato. Now, I will give him this. Bellato, he cracked Bellato and almost had Bellato finished. Obviously, USC is not real happy with him with what he did with Rua, the way he acted after that fight. But I mean, just look at his losses. Like all knockouts, and then you got Robert coming off of Octagon series. His last 5 fights have ended in the first round. There's not going to be wrestling. There's not going to be submission attempts. It's just going to be strike until someone goes to sleep. So unders on this one. I'll give Poteria. I'll pick Poteria. I think he's the underdog. Come on, guys coming off of Octagon series, making his USA debut in a fight where both guys can knock each other out. Yeah, I'll take Poteria at a little sprinkle there. I'm not really sure why this guy's favored. So yeah, for purpose of the video, Poteria, but make sure you make money on the unders on this one. Dan Ige and Andre Fili. I've been a Dan Ige fan. I'm still upset that he lost against Bryce Mitchell when Bryce Mitchell ended up in the hospital after the fight. Dan Ige's on Instagram without a scratch on him right after the fight, talking about he's got to be better. So I thought he looked good against Damon Jackson and Nate Landwehr. I thought that fight against Landwehr was really, really good. He looked incredible. And you got Andre Fili, who is coming off of nice win against Lucas Almeida. Almeida looked terrible. And Fili, he lost to Nathaniel Wood, no shame in that, but he had success early. He had Nathaniel Wood hurt a little bit. So I don't think it's that big of a deal to lose that one. It's just going to be a great fight on the feet. I think both guys are pretty even, so whoever's the underdog, I would just take a little sprinkle on. Yeah, I don't know. Looking at Ige's last loss against Bryce Mitchell, I mean, Bryce Mitchell and Andre Fili probably couldn't be more different because Fili's going to keep it on the feet, most likely, and if it does get on the ground, he's just going to be active, and it's just not going to look like the Bryce Mitchell fight. So I think Ige looks pretty different, so I guess I'll lean Ige for purpose of the video, but I think it's a really, really good, fun fight. So wouldn't surprise me whoever won, but I'll pick Ige. Jack Hermansson, Joe Pyfer. I don't know. Call me crazy. I don't think Joe Pyfer should be that big of a favorite. That's great. He got finishes over Abdul Razak Allison, okay. Gerald Mearshart, all right. And Alan Amadovsky. I don't know. Not that impressed. I know Hermansson's getting up there in age. Listen, he lost against Roman Dolidze in a fight that he was winning, in my opinion. He takes Dolidze down, and it just gets caught in this crazy calf slicer. It was a 1 in a million chance, but he was winning that fight. Before that, I thought he did a great job against Chris Curtis. Frustrated Curtis, moved around on the feet really good, stayed out of the range of Curtis's strikes, then jumped in, popped Curtis a few times, and gets the win. Before that, he loses a split decision to Sean Strickland. He was champ earlier this year. So I think this line is way too wide on Joe Pyfer. I know he's got all the hype. I know he finishes. I know he's one of Dana White's favorites, but Dana White's favorites have not been doing that great recently. So I think people are overlooking Jack Hermansson. I think Jack's going to give Pyfer some real trouble. I think he's going to be able to move around on the outside and stay out of harm's way early. And if he does, look out, man. Jack Hermansson could make this a very, very close fight the longer that this goes. So I think Hermansson's actually worth a sprinkle. Could Pyfer knock him out in the first round? Yeah, anything's possible. I just think it's more likely that Hermansson survives and pushes Pyfer and makes this hard. This is a big step up in competition. And Hermansson's coming off a loss. That was not your typical loss where a guy gets dominated. So really, guys, grab the 4% play. We've got a couple of other plays that we attached to that one. Looking to really build the bankrolls on Saturday. Have very, very high hopes for this weekend, and it starts today. So take advantage of that. We've only put out 7 4% UFC plays in the last year, and we're 5-2 on those. So I feel great about the card. So just quick little recap. Marcos and Aoriqileng, I like overs. Hyder, Amil, and Fernie, Garcia, I like overs. Pauga and Guskov, lean Pauga. Take out Guskov. Jeremiah Wells and Max Griffin. Too close. I'm not betting that one. Devin Clark, Prachnio. I'm just not a Prachnio fan. Ever so slightly into Devin Clark, but certainly not a big bet. I like Lookboonmee against Brazil with the wrestling. Size is a little bit of a concern, but I think Lookboonmee's aggressiveness will eventually take over. Cuamba and Oki, it's a stay away. Too many question marks with the late replacement, but I'll lean Oki ever so slightly. Giles and Prates. Slight lean on Prates, but I think this fight is a lot closer than people think. Giles, savvy vet. I think he gives Prates problems. Petrosyan and Viera, I really like Petrosyan in that one. Flowers and Michael Johnson, I'll take Michael Johnson. Tavares and Rodriguez, lean Rodriguez. Peteria and Brisiak, I like the unders on this one with a potential on Peteria. Peteria by knockout, not the worst prop in the world. Ige and Fili, really, really close to call, but I lean ever so slightly Ige. And Hermansson and Pyfer, a little sprinkle on Hermansson. I think Pyfer's line is way too wide. So go grab those plays, guys, at wagertalk.com. Don't forget to hit the like button. Leave me a comment. Tell me what your best bet is. And don't forget to subscribe if you're enjoying all the gambling content. So thanks very much, guys. Good luck on all your plays today. Let's build the bankrolls. I'm rooting for everybody. Let's have a great Saturday and get ready for Super Bowl Sunday.